Hello everyone, it's Jin'taan here, and welcome to my latest update on the news in EVE Online. To start with, we have a war that I missed in my previous news update. Shoot First, Iron Armada and their allies have clashed with Snuffed Out, Pen Is Out, and their own respective allies in Galante Lowsec over a variety of objectives in the past week. Meanwhile, in the northeast, Skill Yourself, the main alliance of the Holy Renting Empire, has disbanded, leaving a massive power vacuum as Oasa, Peregrine Falls and Innsmother are left without defence. Just to the west of that in Tribute, the Northern War continues, with multiple Keepstar and other Citadel kills being secured by the Imperium, and Pan-Fam forces moving their line back to the Vale of the Silent. That Northern War has not just impacted Nullsec, however, it's also led to changes in the high-sec ecosystem, as EVE Mogul's services are shifted over to the 6th Empire after Imperium intervention, which is affecting various regions, but most notably Domain, Heimatar and Lone Trek. And finally, a side theatre to the Providence War breaks out, as Proviblock and Did He Say Jump clash over the final timer of a Fortizar in the Bleaklands, which leads to Wrecking Crew, the Initiative and Pandemic Horde getting involved in the ensuing fight. Alright, so with the headlines out of the way, it's time to take a look at that war I said I missed, which is the major war in Lowsec right now between Snuffed Out and Shoot First. And this war was declared by Shoot First on Snuffed Out during a State of the Alliance meeting on the 3rd of June. And from what I can tell, this is primarily born from a desire to force Snuffed Out to defend their own infrastructure, rather than Shoot First being forced to defend their own against the offensive actions that Snuffed Out have taken against them. Now, it's not to say that these alliances weren't fighting before this, but this led to an intensified conflict between the two alliances, and ended up resulting in the loss of Shoot First's Tatara and Asbel in essence, and culminating in an attack on Shoot First's staging Fortizar, which is where they held most of the ships that they were intending to use to prosecute this war. This is where Iron Armada comes into the picture, as they joined in Shoot First's defence of the Fortizar, despite having initially planned to start their own campaign against them in the region, leading to a continued alliance between the two in fighting Snuffed Out and embroiling the alliance of Iron Armada directly in the conflict. Both alliances seem to be working relatively closely together, as can be seen by their joint effort to kill a Pen Is Out Athanor. On the other side, Pen Is Out, allies from Snuffed Out both in their previous ventures in Lowsec and also their campaign in Cloud Ring, have been present for many of the fights in this war alongside them, and unlike Iron Armada have been involved from the very beginning of the war. However, as I haven't had a chance to speak with a representative of Pen Is Out, I won't elaborate any more without a primary source on the matter. Now, as Lowsec has no SOV markers to track where these alliances live, it's a little harder to get an idea of where these alliances operate on a day-to-day basis. However, we do know where they're staging their military forces from this campaign. Snuffed Out is based out of Raqqa Pass in Black Rise, whereas Shoot First are based out of Adarain in Essence. And as a result of their respective locations, fighting has primarily based around their two staging regions of Black Rise and Essence, but also the adjoining region of Placid, where both alliances and their allies hold assets, and these assets are typically in the form of citadels, and either controlling valuable moons or providing building facilities or staging for capitals, all of which are important for maintaining a proper economic engine with which to back up your war machine, given the heavy importance placed on capitals and super capitals in the current metagame. And don't think that just because this is Lowsec that the stakes are lower than Nullsec, however, as the fleets that have been operating in Lowsec have been working in much the same way and with many of the same compositions that will be familiar to long-term Nullsec pilots. In fact, the most recent important fight was over Iron Armada's staging Fortizar, and that was tipped in the favour of Snuffed Out by the deployment of their supercapital fleet in order to destroy the defending fleet's capitals and secure the destruction of their structure by saving their own dreadnoughts. It's not often that a war in Lowsec is kicked off in such a vociferous manner, and as such I'll be trying my best to keep an eye on this war and note when things progress, so that we can keep an eye on things other than Nullsec in these news updates. Our next story, however, is a little more somber, as it covers the disbanding of an alliance which has massively changed the Nullsec metagame over the past couple of years. The first the wider EVE community heard about Skill Yourself's plans to shut down were in a Reddit post, where a meeting between some of the founding corporations of Skill U were informed about this was leaked, and then confirmed by CapQ in the comments. Despite some skepticism, even from myself, that this was a ruse cruise, on the 16th of June 2019, Skill Yourself, the Alliance, was disbanded. The reasons for this given by CapQ in the meeting are a mixture of discontent with the current content available to the Alliance, and a lack of further objectives to take part in with the Alliance. However, a further release from him as to the specifics of why he chose to shut down Skill-U as a result is expected in the future, and I will try and report on that when it comes out. The disbanding of an alliance means that there is no longer a wallet from which solve bills can be paid from, leading to the mass self-destruction of TCUs and iHubs across the Northeast that belonged to the alliance, as Skill Yourself's 259 systems became up for grabs. One quirk of this system and how Skill Yourself had set up their renting apparatus means that the vast majority of their iHubs are still in place, however, as they belonged to the Pan-Intergalactic Business Community Alliance, which is their renting group. The main beneficiaries of this power vacuum seem to have been Fraternity, as they have been able to move their forces up from the front lines in their war within the southeast with Legacy, and lay claim to huge chunks of Peregrine Falls, Innsmouth and Oasa. Other alliances have been able to take advantage of the opportunity, however, as the previous renting alliance of Skill-U that I mentioned before, the Pan-Intergalactic Business Community, seems to have taken a hold of some of Skill-U's previous footprint in the areas that they were previously renting out, suggesting that they may be trying to become their own form of independent alliance. Equally, however, new alliances that have never before been involved in holding SOV have made their own impact, with groups such as Knockout Dot, Hostile Occupation, the Minions, and even Code occupying these abandoned systems. Only time will tell who is able to truly lay claim to the Northeast, as almost all of these systems are relatively low ADM, and therefore susceptible to being captured by opponents in the near future. As such, we should expect a lot of turmoil in this region over the next couple of months, as various powers try and establish control over these regions. Moving over to the last of our headline stories, we have the Northern War, and the objectives that we talked about in our last news update have fallen, with the MTAC-O Keepstar being sent off with a massive quote-unquote fireworks display of Lance Doomsdays in order to celebrate the Imperium's victory, an action which in of itself cost an estimated 15 billion in isotopes to fuel said weapons. According to the spreadsheet which Goonswarm Federation have made public, which is tracking their structure kills, nearly 3.5 trillion has already been destroyed in the course of this campaign, with assets from PanFam being destroyed in both Tribute, Veil of the Silent and Pure Blind. This sheet is being used due to the occasional structure which is being transferred to non-PanFam corporations before being destroyed, as happened to the MTAC-O Keepstar, which prevents the lost mail from being shown on any PanFam killboards, leading to the Imperium creating this spreadsheet in order to track it for themselves. Now, as we mentioned in our last update, PanFam had repelled previously multiple attacks on SH-1, and they'd managed to hold control of the system up until the 19th of June. Unfortunately, at that point, the iHub, which determines control over the crucial Tenebrex cyno-jamming structures, was flipped to the control of Goonswarm Federation, effectively handing PanFam's previous staging system over to the attackers. Preempting this loss, PanFam was able to fall back to a new staging system, Q-TAC-E in Veil of the Silent, and this staging point is well chosen, as it will allow them to project themselves across Veil of the Silent and Geminate using capital forces in order to defend their remaining assets in those regions. This move may also be in order to link up with PanFam's supercapital fleet, which, as we can see from the monthly economic report, moved into Geminate at some time near the end of May. And we know this because the MER counts piloted ships as well as market assets in its import column, so the movement of the supercapital fleet is often a large enough transfer of ISK that it shows up in these kinds of metrics, as we can see here by the massive 3.9 trillion ISK of net imports, which is likely to be partially due to a movement of Titans and supercarriers up to the front. This isn't the most reliable source of info, but it does give an interesting idea of, at the very least, the sheer wealth that block-level conflict involves. As of yet, it's unknown whether the Imperium will continue its advance into other regions of PanFam space following their retreat, or if it will continue to focus its attention on the undefended Tribute. However, some notable structure kills in Veil of the Silent, such as this Soitoyo, have begun to take place, so I'll be keeping an eye on it and hope to keep you up to date on any movements that take place in this war. The Imperium's advance has not just taken down the official PanFam structures in Tribute, however, as they have destroyed Mogul Financial's Soitoyo and one of the unique faction Fortizars that they also owned in MTAC-O. and this comes on the heels of previous losses to some of the alliances that we mentioned earlier in this update, as Siege Green and Shoot First Dot, with assistance from Ploviblock, took down Mogul Financial's Tatara in Bassa Green, with no defence being mounted for it. And several of the publicly available citadels that they held control over in the system of New Caldari have been reinforced by the Imperium as well, quickly falling into their final timers. This led to Jeronica, one of the key members of Eve Mogul, to make a statement on one of their discords, which was then cross-posted to Reddit. And this statement announced that Eve Mogul will be transferring their remaining in-space assets to the Sixth Empire, as they felt that they shared similar goals and values to their own organisation, and also to prevent them from being needlessly destroyed. According to a comment left in the thread by Tuzzy, the Imperium acted against Eve Mogul as they believed them to be a front organisation for Pan-Fam, or as he puts it, the Casino War criminals, who are the Imperium's opposition in their current war in the north, and provided evidence within that post to back this claim up. These claims were then publicly denied by Jeronica himself, along with several other members of Eve Mogul that I spoke to on the matter. I'll link this Reddit thread in the description so that you can make up your own mind on who's right and who's wrong if you wish to delve further down that rabbit hole, but I'm not about to make judgment on something that's as obviously unprovable as this. I attempted to get a statement from the representatives of the Sixth Empire in order to share their side of this story. However, given that most of their leadership is currently travelling to Eve North, they were unable to respond in time for this report. Our final story is one that I was able to experience firsthand, as I decided to join a Proviblock fleet in order to get a better view of the other side of the ongoing Providence Spectre War, and knowing that there was likely to be a clash over structures in southern Providence which had been reinforced at the time. However, Spectre was heavily outnumbered by Proviblock for this timer, and as a result chose not to engage, leading to the fleet that they had formed reinforcing Spectre Fleet's staging citadel in Masaba. The Proviblock fleet then reshipped into Munins, and after a short break headed towards the Bleaklands in order to reach the next citadel that was coming out of reinforcement. And this citadel had been pushed through its first two timers by Did He Say Jump, with, as far as I can tell, no resistance, leading to the owner of that citadel reaching out to Providence in the hopes that they could lend aid into defending the structure, which their FC, Vishnegradsky, accepted. The Proviblock fleet was actually able to enter the field first, and managed to catch Did He Say Jump entering the system with a fleet of rattlesnakes, leading to a short engagement as the two traded ships, before both sides disentangled themselves and fought on the Fortizar Gred directly. As both sides were able to engage the citadel itself, the stakes began to be raised, as Pandemic Horde and Wrecking Crew entered the fray on Did He Say Jump's side with an Eagle and Macariel fleet respectively, whilst the Initiative's Tengu and Loki fleet arrived to bolt at the defending side, leading to a capital escalation as both sides dropped dreadnoughts in order to try and kill the other's force auxiliaries to break the subcapital stalemate that had developed. In the end, however, things went against the defenders, and the Fortizar was destroyed after the Proviblock forces were pushed off the field by heavy losses. Currently, it doesn't seem like any more timers in this theatre are present, with Spectre Fleet and Wrecking Crew both focusing on Providence proper, but it was certainly a weird convergence of the Providence War and the Northern one, as Pandemic Horde and the Initiative are both on opposite sides of that conflict and assisted in opposite sides in this fight. And I thought that was just an interesting thing to show how alliances aren't limited to one area of space. They can go in third party on all of these different wars, which is one of the uniquer parts of EVE in my opinion. And that about wraps it up for news in the past couple of weeks in EVE Online. If you think that there's something I missed, feel free to put it in the comments, and do the same if you think I got something wrong. If you'd like to see more news updates, feel free to hit that little button below you and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your time, and fly smart.